etched a tumbler without a laser and the results came out looking so good. In today's video, we are going to use ferric chloride to etch onto a stainless steel tumbler because it is such a cool process that you can get a permanent design on a tumbler that's not going to wash off or anything if you use vinyl or even like a UV sticker or something along those lines. But this is not going anywhere because it's actually etched into the steel. I'm Ashley and this is Ship Build, so let's jump into it. So for this project, we are going to start by making our vinyl stencil. And I just have my vinyl here and I cut a small piece of it and I'm attaching it to the Cricut Joy mat. The key thing here is you want to make sure there's no wrinkles or bumps, that way it cuts out evenly and perfect. And then if you cut it oversized like I did, you can just take some scissors and trim it up to make sure it fits on the mat well. Alright, so we're here in Cricut Design Space and these are the 6 designs I made for this project specifically. It doesn't have to only be used for this, you can easily add some color and put it on a t-shirt. But so I think I'm going to test out either doing this top one or this middle one, just because I think those would be fun. I'm just not sure if this bottom one has too much detail for the size that we're going to cut it out. So I've already come in here and I've resized these two. For me, because this is going on the tumbler, I think the size 3.5 inches wide is a good size so you can actually see the design. And then what you want to make sure too is that it's all selected and you come over here and you hit attach. That way things aren't going to shift around when we go to cut them out. So let's hit make. And then we have our Cricut Joy mat here and I'm going to spread these out. These are going to be used as stencils, so I want to not have them at the edges of any part of this. And then that's good. And then we can come down here and then I'm just going to click premium vinyl and leave it as is. And then now we can load in our mat. And then we can click go. So because we're using this as a stencil, we want to weed out the parts we don't normally would weed out when you're doing a vinyl design. So like for instance, we want to remove like this end, and then you'll be able to see what I mean in a second. So you can see how this is picking up really nicely. So my biggest tip with doing a project like this where you're making a small vinyl decal is to use a vinyl that has a plastic backing and not one that has a paper backing, because when you cut out a small design on the paper backing, like the little bits of the middle of the letters and like just the small details, it doesn't stick to the paper very well, and so it just kind of moves around, and so this would be a pain in the butt to keep weeding and try to place it back in place. It just make your life a lot harder. Whereas with this one with the plastic backing, you can see how none of those pieces really look like that. So that's just my pro tip to make your life a little bit easier. And then also it will depend a little bit on how like complicated your design is, but this is doing pretty good so far. So just really take your time with this step, because even though this cut out really well, you know, you still want to be careful. Make sure you do this in a well-lit area as well. So when we take out this O, it should be relatively easy. And then we're not going to lose any of those little tiny innards of the letter. Look at how awesome that is. So this brand is the HTV Romp brand and you can get on Amazon, and I love it. All right. And our graphic is ready to go. I think that's going to look pretty cool. So let's get it on our tumbler. All right, so before we put our sticker on, we are going to clean it up with some 99% isopropyl alcohol. And you don't have to do the whole thing, just the part where your design is going to go. All right, I got my transfer tape here. I like this one a lot because it's a little less sticky than some of the other ones. And then so I'm literally going to just press this down and make sure it just covers everything. Ideally, you don't want any kind of air bubbles. And so I'm going to just push it out like that. And then we can use your squeegee to really press the vinyl onto the transfer tape. So my favorite way to do this is to peel back like as down as possible and at an angle. Because if you do that, then if parts of your design is coming up, it's very easy to fix it. So now we need to carefully apply our vinyl decal. And I'm literally just gonna try and find like the midpoint, and I'm gonna just push it down in the middle and just use my finger and slowly go to one side and then come back and slowly do this other side. That way nothing bubbles up. So then we can use our squeegee here and really make sure this is burnished down well. This part is very key. You don't want any air bubbles here because otherwise the solution will get under. All right, let's peel off our transfer tape. Again, peeling down and at an angle. And that looks awesome. All right, the next thing we have to do is use blue painter's tape to tape up the exposed areas of our tumbler. That way we don't accidentally etch it. And this is why I was saying to make sure you have a decent amount of overlap for your design when you're cutting it out with your Cricut. Make sure it's nice and pressed down. All right, so I picked up one of these little pans from the Dollar Tree as well. It comes in like a pack of 2. And this just fits really nicely in there. And then this way it'll just be for some easy cleanup and application. For this project you need to have PPE. You need to be wearing gloves of some kind. You need some cotton balls and then be in a well ventilated area. And then even so you might still want to put some kind of respirator on just to really make sure you're protected. All right, so now we can use the ferric chloride. I'm just going to give it a little shake. Now I bought this like 2 years ago, so I'm not sure if there's an expiration date or not, but I guess we'll find out. So I'm just gonna put a cotton ball here, turn it over, and then literally just gonna start dabbing. Now I think I'm gonna do about 2 to 3 coats with a few minutes in between each coat just to make sure it gets completely saturated in there. If you really want to, you can like tape off your whole tumbler if you're worried about that. Now your design might come out a bit splotch, but that would be just the unperfectness of the stainless steel itself. So keep that in mind. We got 1 solid coat in here. And I have this other tin that I'm gonna let the solution sit in just in case any happens to spill out. And then in a few minutes, we can do another coat. All right, it's been a few minutes, so now it's time for another coat. Again, just splotting it. I'm trying to splot it somewhat even. I really don't know if I'm doing a good job at that or not. All right, and then we'll let that sit for a couple minutes, and then I think we'll only do 1 more coat. Overall, this project won't take longer than 30 minutes from start to finish. So this is pretty perfect if you need a last minute gift. All right, it's been a few minutes, so let's put our final coat on. Honestly, you can put as many or as little coats on as you want. Now we need to neutralize the ferric chloride, and so we are just going to douse this thing in baking soda, and then I'm going to take my gloved hand and really rub it in there to really make sure all of that solution gets neutralized. And I'm just going to do that a couple times. Then we can go take it into the kitchen and wash it off. So I'm just going to wash it off with warm water. And then just make sure all of the baking soda and everything is off of it. You can peel off the permanent vinyl and then see how it turned out. And honestly, I am so impressed with how this looked. Even the small little details in the O and for the E and stuff, it just looks absolutely amazing. Honestly, this thing came out looking super cool. It's kind of hard with just the lighting setup I have in here to really see that engraving, but that is etched in there, and that is so awesome that you can etch a tumbler without having to own a laser. All you need is the Cricut, which is way cheaper than purchasing a laser machine. And I'm honestly very pleased with how this turned out. I might have made it just slightly too big. Maybe we could have gone a little bit smaller. And this took less than 30 minutes for us to do. Again, just amazing, quick, last minute project that you can do if you need a gift. You could put like a sports team on there, someone's name. The possibilities are endless. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you. Don't forget to enter our giveaway. At the end of the 12 days of Craftmas, we'll go live and we'll announce who won it. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And I'll have the SVG files and all the things we use for this project down below. But I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya!